Yeah, this is the Seton Rivals podcast. We are starting to get into elimination mode. Unfortunately, one team has not made the postseason cut, so now we're down to just 7 teams rolling. And this past week, it was a very productive week for our Seatown teams. 5 wins and 2 losses. Our School of Faith, who is still active, they were a winner, and our CUSD, they went a total of 4-2. Well, I'll tell you, folks, yes, year 12, the podcast continues to grow. Thankful for Sports 360. Thankful for the Arizona Varsity Podcast Network, as well as, of course, the Facebook page. But more so, thankful for two guys who I've worked with for a very long time. And that would be Ralph Amsden and Just Chili. Ralph Amsden, he started this whole thing, and it continues to move along at some really steady speed. We're making strides, some fantastic strides. And Chili, seems like you've been making strides since day one. You've been up here. Me and Ralph, we're trying to catch up to you a little bit, but it is it is all good. It is it's been a fantastic run, a run that I certainly hope continues. But before we dive into football, I gotta talk some basketball with you guys. I want to get your stance on where are we in this basketball season, because I think collectively football's a blur. High school, of course, is our forte. We love college football, that's for sure. NFL seemingly is everybody's faces. Ralph, I'll ask you, as we're into mid-November, do you follow college basketball this early? Not so much. NBA, when do you start to kick in that round ball mode?
If I have the night open and college basketball is on, I'll watch it. I always get a little bit frustrated as a college football fan, who the majority of my job is covering college football, that the marquee matchups are early in the season. So,
yes.
You know, the last night Kentucky Duke couldn't really, pay too much attention to that. And so, those marquee matchups, missing out on those, I try to record them if I can. But, I love college basketball. It's just really, really hard to get into it for me until the holiday tournaments. So the holiday tournaments are when I really start to lock in. I plan on going to Atlanta to see Arizona State play against Florida. I think there's going to be one here in Charlotte. This is ACC headquarters, so we'll get to see a little bit of that. I do like college basketball. It's not the greatest product in the entire world. I like March Madness a lot more because it feels like the type of basketball changes. You have a lot less bully ball and a lot more kind of letting it fly. And it really seems like the teams that are well coached always kind of rise to the top. Coaching in college basketball makes the biggest difference in the world to me. So I don't know. Early season is tough, and then conference is tough because I'm going to pay attention to whatever Arizona State and Wyoming are doing. So I kind of lose touch with what's going on in the SEC, ACC, and the Big Ten. I wish there wasn't so much overlap. Otherwise, I'd be all in. Basketball is my favorite sport by a million miles. It's just tough when football is what pays the bills.
I hear you. I'm definitely I'm a college basketball fan, but yes, like you, I agree. It's tough to get into the early season matchups because there's so much else on our plate. The one thing I did want to slide into is this. This is the second year that NBA Cup, or I guess it's the Emirates Cup.
All right.
It has given me reason, and I didn't watch last night. I guess last night was the opening night, but I typically would not tune into the NBA until Christmas. And now with this cup and its World Cup style, I like competition. So once it's down to 8 teams, which presumably will be the first week of December, I'll get into that. Kind of kicks off my NBA. So it's because of that cup, it started a few weeks early for me. Chili, what you got for hoops?
So that Emiratis Cup has done its job then, because I agree, man. I think it's brought some earlier excitement to the NBA. Like I'm a little bit more drawn in. My Knicks are kind of hovering around 500 right now, and top half of what would be the 18 playoffs in the Eastern Conference. But the Suns, Ralph, your sons, I know they're a little beat up and stuff, but them boys, they're going right now. They're number one. You got to be hyped. It's early. I've heard coaches say that the regular season they try to break it up into 10-game stanzas, and I mean if that's the case, like the Suns are taking care of that business, and they look like they're going to make another title run if guys get healthy at the right time.
Yeah, I was upset when they put the schedule out, and you look at the first 10 games, and it was like twice Mavericks, twice Lakers, twice Clippers. Like, what are we doing? What are they 8-2? I think they're 8-2.
Are they 8-2? I thought they were like 9-2. But I mean, I try to keep up as best as I can. I know the Warriors did their thing yesterday. I saw Curry give Clay that work, but yeah, man. Cody over here, super Bay Area Warriors fan, 49ers fan, supporting all those guys in the Bay Area, but a San Francisco Giants fan too. We won't talk too much about that, but yeah, man. NBA season's here, and it's fun. Look, the Giants, the New York Giants season's over, so I mean, I'm already tuned in on the Knicks right now. So
yeah, that Giants thing, that's not even good.
Bodega Cat. Come on.
That's Giants are looking at Cam Ward next year, but we'll have to.
You want Cam or Shedeur?
I want
Cam.
Shedeur.
I don't think Shedeur is built for New York. I just think that that's my opinion. I think
he's sensitive.
Right.
He's very sensitive.
That's precisely why I don't think he's built for New York. I think Cam Ward would be the better of the two. So yes, we'll
get Shedeur out here to Charlotte where no one cares. He's gonna thrive.
That works. Definitely works. Good stuff. Speaking of thriving, there's a team over on Ray Roads that is really doing well. Corner of Dobson and Ray, the Seton Catholic Sentinels. They finished their regular season with an 8-2 record. They crushed La Jolla Community High School 63-12, 36 first quarter points. I don't think any team in our podcast ever, since we've been doing this, has scored that many points in a 12-minute period.
No,
Corey Edwards, a phenomenal freshman, 3 touchdown runs. Chase Dixon, touchdown pass. The big boy, Micah Asaki, he rushed for a TD. And Ralph, of course, there's a guy named Luke Aguiar who did his thing as well.
Yeah, I mean, he got the 2 touchdowns to finish with 20 in the regular season. We have to start thinking about whether he can get to 2,000 yards if they make a playoff run. It's been a very fun season for them. And shout out to Corey Edwards. It's always cool when, as a freshman, you put in the work at the lower levels, and they took an opportunity to feed him the rock in this game where they were already up 1 million. And he went out there and he had a game to give us something to get excited about for the future.
Yes. Yes, indeed. Chili, I want to flash it back.
1 million.
The last time that Seton scored this many points in a game, November 15th, 2014, they crushed Winslow 69-19. Zach Wade, 250 yards and 5 touchdown passes. They had 2 rushes for over 100 yards. When I saw the other name, I was like, wow, he was pretty good. Of course, Antonio Campanella was one of them. Remember Matthew Bresnahan? He was a junior that year. He rushed for 108 in that game. Then, of course, our guy Brandon Garcia with 110 receiving yards.
Oh, he was legit too.
Actually was the last game that Rex Bowser won, because the next week they got beat by Snowflake in the semifinals. So that was kind of a memorable game. Something I'm not sure of. Ralph, we've been talking, of course, and all three of us, Sloan Sweet, defensive stud for Seton Catholic this year. There was a guy named Forrest Sweet on that 2014 team. I don't know if there's a relation or not. Who knows? But I just had to do some research on that really good team when I saw them score 63 points. And again, I don't think any team in our podcast has ever scored that many points, 36. There was a couple of 35s in a quarter, but 36 is special, guys.
Dang, that's a grip. And there's I would say that there has to be a relationship between the Sweets. I would just guess, but This Seton team, man, they're prime. They're ready right now, and I'm excited. They get this Arcadia team that I just got to look at last week when ACP made a movie out there. Gave me popcorn and Skittles and all that, and it was certainly the Terrifier over there at Arcadia. But yeah, man, I'm excited, and I think that this Seton team can pull off the shocker and advance. And I'm excited, dude. I can't wait. I don't know when the last time I was like this excited to talk about Seton this late in the season has been. So this is big time, and I'm pumped. I'm pumped for Walheim. And look, Valley Luna ain't the only thing on Dobson and Ray anymore. Like, stop playing games. Seton is ready to go.
I agree. I mean, I don't know a ton about Arcadia, except obviously, yeah, they're 9-1 this year. They had a really good team last year. This Seton Catholic team, yeah, I mean, they've surprised us really since day one, and I certainly hope the beat continues. I mean, they're going to have to bring it. They definitely will. I think Ralph, something you alluded to with Corey Edwards, obviously he's just a freshman, but at the same time, something we collectively talked about a few weeks ago, if they can get somebody to kind of step up outside of Aggie or another offensive force, Bailey Mendoza, maybe he's the guy who connects with Dixon a couple of times in the air. We'll see, but we certainly know who would be waiting in the wings if Seton Catholic were to win that game, and more than likely it would be the ACP Knights. As we roll into them, they just continue to dominate, 42-24 over the Arcadia Titans. So Arcadia, indeed, Seton Catholic with the 10 seed, Arcadia with the 7 seed, ACP with the number 2 seed. Evan Heinrich, he continues to be so poised as a quarterback. I believe his ratio is 25-1 touchdowns to interceptions.
That's insane.
Not bad.
That is. That's ridiculous. Tyler Louder, he gets over the century mark, 105 yards and a score. There's really nothing this team can't do. They even had their first punt return for a touchdown this year. Andre Pena, he brought one back to the house. Chile Allegri, you said something a couple weeks ago. ACP might be playing the best football of any team in the state, and they certainly showed it on Friday night.
No, for sure. And I love what Coach Vaught does over there. I got to get an up close look at how this team operates. Coach Vaught, Coach Ortiz over there. Man, these guys are clicking on all cylinders. These guys are really ready to go. Sanchez looks fantastic. They had another kid out there, number 11, Lambert. He looked tough. These guys, man, they got guys like ACPA. Chandler football's back, and not just on the upper levels. Chandler football's back, and this is a team that definitely should be playing in the 5A next year. The way Coach Vaught got these guys going, and Bartz and everybody, like, I don't know. This is gonna be some serious. This is gonna be a serious run by ACP this year. We're about to watch them make some history.
I agree, Ralph. This is almost like sometime when we talk about those Chandler teams of old and kind of the Basha teams, that they're just clicking on all cylinders. I don't see a weak spot. I mean, the only weakness might be over the last 4 or 5 weeks that they haven't been tested. They haven't since that's Yuma Catholic game. I mean, but their balance is just really good, Ralph. I mean, it's good.
Well, Arcadia technically undefeated. So
yes,
I mean, it wasn't like the schedule didn't line up for them to have a test. Same with Yuma Catholic. They run through everybody. And the all cylinders thing is correct. I mean, when you have Andre Pena blocking punts, you have Reed Martinelli, who has only missed 1 kick all year. I think he's 19 of 20 on extra points, 3 of 3 on field goals. So they're doing what they need to do on special teams. We know they're doing what they need to do on offense. They protect the ball as well as any team in the state. Like, think about the fact that Seton Catholic has, I think, 31 turnovers generated. Yeah, I think it's at the minimum of 31. I didn't check to see if they had any fumble recoveries. But Seton Catholic has 31 turnovers generated in 10 games. Meanwhile, Evan Heinrich has thrown 1 interception.
That's true.
Like, they're not giving anybody any extra opportunities to do anything. We talked about the fact that they got about 6 guys that can get yards on the ground, including Heinrich. If he wants to take off and run, he doesn't do it often, but he can. Cash Lambert's been doing a good job catching the ball. Pretty much anybody they throw to has been dependable. I think they got like 9 different receivers who have caught touchdown passes this year. And then defensively, they just handle business. And, they got a lot of seniors, but they're not fully senior dependent. So it gets you excited about what they could do beyond this season. And, man, they just ran through Arcadia. It makes me excited for what the possibility could be for this weekend when you see that Arizona College Prep ran for almost 300 yards against Arcadia. What's Seton Catholic going to do?
Correct. That's a great point. No, you're absolutely right. I mean, that running game of Aguiar and now the emergence of Corey Edwards certainly can help. It's we look at that 215 matchup, and yeah, they met earlier this season, week 3, 62-28. ACP was a winner over Estrella Foothills. And fellas, I see no reason that ACP would not advance.
Hey, this is a different Estrella Foothills team. Like, don't forget, this is a team that just spoiled the season for Deer Valley. That's how they got into the playoffs. Deer Valley was undefeated, and Estrella Foothills was like, nah. You know what? We're gonna add something to that loss column, and they might be feeling a different way and ready to make this trip, and just got to be ready. Just got to be ready. Like, ACP is playing the best football in Arizona right now. I truly believe that. Now they just got to keep playing the best football because it's a brand new season. Everybody's 0-0.
Correct, yes. And you know how a lot of teams, when they begin the fourth quarter, they put up those 4 fingers. I think we're doing it because that's how many games ACP has left in their season. That's I would say that's certainly the Knights are they're dominating. We see that schedule, the headline right there. The Casteel Colts, they roll over the Aztecs of Corona del Sol 35-12. They finish the regular season at 5-5. They get the 11 seed. Chile, it seemed like a couple of names that we speak of, Isaiah Linier, Elijah Beeman, they were able to cross the goal line. The one thing we know that's consistent is Casteel never has a problem making the postseason. It's just how deep they can go. Chili, tell me about this Colts team, because something we talked about last week, they got some dudes, but they never seem to put it together as often as we would like collectively.
Well, it seems like it's coming together now at the right time, obviously, late in the season, getting ready for the postseason. It looks like Beeman's back. Mason Lewis is playing some of his best football. The situation with Paul Palmer, just waiting to see what happens, and when he's ready to take off again, like he did early this season. And then obviously, like there's a Kabaki, the tight end, guys that we've all been talking about all season long, Linier, Sorensen, these running backs, like they're loaded all over the place. Solid offensive line play. They got guys on defense that can get the job done. So could they make a run? Could they make a run in the playoffs? I mean, I certainly hope so, but man, this is gonna be tough. I think Highland's a tough task.
Indeed, Ralph. Yes, Highland is the next opponent. That's the 11-6 matchup. These two teams have met 3 times before. The Highland Hawks are 3-0 against the Casteel Colts. We do know this isn't probably the strongest of the Highland teams that we've seen in the past, but yeah, as Chili alluded to, the Colts have their work cut out for them, Ralph.
They do. And, I say go with what got you to this point. Trust Paul Palmer. Paul Palmer against Kalen Fisher is going to be a really interesting quarterback matchup. Fisher started out where, Chili?
Fisher started out at Hamilton. Paul Palmer played them. I went and watched that game.
I consider him one of our own to this day. They're both quarterbacks who I like to see maybe play a little bit freer than they do. But we just talked about Evan Heinrich, 25 touchdowns, 1 interception, 70% completions, and able to get the ball in the end zone with his legs when you need him to. It's hard to praise Evan Heinrich without then turning around and saying, well, Paul Palmer did a lot of that this season as well. 20 touchdowns to only 2 interceptions, 4 touchdowns on the ground, and rushed for twice as many yards as Heinrich did. I just want to see. Paul Palmer waited a long time to get to this point. It's a senior. It's potentially his last game. He's going up against one of the stingiest defenses out there. Fisher's career has been building for a really long time. I'd love to see this be a quarterback battle. For as much as I believe this game is probably going to have 30 pass attempts between both quarterbacks combined, I'd love to see them both have 30. Put the ball in the quarterback's hands, let him cook, and may the best team win.
Fish has been an absolute monster. The last 4 games, I think he's on an absolute tear, playing some of the best ball that he's played in his high school career. And they got some weapons over there: Max Brown, Hayden Dougherty. They got dudes that can go, and then defensively, and obviously like Cash Allen and stuff. But they got some dudes that can go on defense too. Rhett Yetter. This team is loaded. Highland's loaded, and they got bangers. They got dudes that are gonna come and just literally hit you in the mouth, hit you in the face, and they play hard. So you got to be ready for that.
7 o'clock on Friday night. Number 11 Casteel at number 6 Highland.
I got the colors.
Chandler Wolves.
Go Colts.
Yes, you do. The Chandler Wolves and the Perry Pumas. They both fall in their respective year-end street battles to Hamilton and Basha, respectively. Both teams were dominated. Chandler falls 56-14, and Perry defeated 31-11. This is the 9-8 matchup in the 6A playoffs. It's going to be a good one. It's tight. 9-8s usually are. The location of this game essentially decided by that Nate Wheeler 99-yard pick 6 a couple of weeks ago. Rather than look back, let's look ahead. I do want to say, hey, Cale Snyder, 25 of 43, 231, something I'd mentioned last week that I wanted to see him complete more passes than incomplete passes. He did just that. Ralph, is this the matchup that Perry would like? I say that because they beat Chandler a couple of weeks ago. They're familiar with each other. They have a little bit more momentum perhaps than Chandler does. What does this look like from the Perry side?
Oh, man.
It's tough.
One of the dumbest things criminals do is return to the scene of the crime, right?
Okay, fair. Wow.
It's hard for me to get to the point where I'd say, yeah, no, this is the matchup that Perry wants. Obviously Chandler dealing with injuries at running back and quarterback, but come on. Say that Perry wants this when, there were other potential matchups on the table. They have that win. They should go into it with confidence, but Chandler gets to say something about that game to its players. Rick Garrettson gets to say something about that game to his players, which is that, hey, you did everything right except for one thing. So go out there, play your game, don't change a thing, protect the football, and we'll get it right this time. Home field advantage is an interesting thing in this because it's like 3.5 miles. So, correct. I do expect, hopefully both sides of the stands are packed out. That's what I hope for. I hope it's a great environment. I know that our guy was still watching the running game out there, into conspiracy theories about the way.
Did we lose Ralph?
Oh, we lost Ralph completely. Well, hey, look, I think that this is a great matchup. Chandler Perry. I think that Chandler, some of the strengths for Chandler right now, Jai Jones is a dude. He's super special ball player, can get a lot of things done for that offense. One of the strengths for Perry right now, I think, are health. They seem to be getting healthier as the season has gone on versus Chandler. Chandler seems to be dealing with a lot of injuries lately. So hopefully, and I think Ralph was wanting to talk about something. Oh, we got Ralph back. Boom.
Good. Very good. Back. Yes, you're in the middle of some good stuff.
I mentioned officiating conspiracy theories and my whole screen went black. So I'm done talking. It's going to be a great game. I'll leave the predictions to you guys.
Man. Well, I will definitely say I'm going to pull one of those Kirk Herbstreets. I'm calling the game. I'm very excited to be doing the play-by-play of this. So I really have no prediction at all. It's a good one. That's all we can hope for on this podcast is great CUSD postseason football.
This is look, and I hate to put the pressure on one team. This is must win for Perry now, though. They have to win this game because if they don't, then it's gonna be like the last one never happened. So Perry's got to go out there and take care of business. Cale Snyder, Amos Augustine, LJ Walker, all those guys, Hayden Moon, all those guys got to go out there and take care of business and put Chandler away. They got to get this dub.
You're in the best part of the bracket. Not a single top 10 team should be looking at Brophy and thinking, oh, that's insurmountable. Brophy has not done anything. I love Jason Jewell, love Brophy, but the truth about Brophy is they haven't done anything to show anybody that when it comes down to it, they're the dominant team. So you're on a side of the bracket where if you win this game, you got a shot against Brophy in the second round.
There is some truth there. There is some truth there. However, man, I don't know if this is exactly the side of the bracket that I'd want to be on personally. I mean, because Brophy for a long time, I said that was my number 3. That was my number 3 in the state. I thought that was the third best team talent-wise on paper in the state. And then Mountain View, man, recency bias and all that from what I've been seeing, shoot, that team looks like they should be in the Open. That team definitely should be in. So like this is a tough draw. And then 2 CUSD teams.
You look at the other side just on the screen. Williamsfield beat Perry. South Point Catholic just killed Brophy.
Yeah.
Cesar Chavez gave Chandler hell. Like based on Brophy's playoff track record, I'd rather be staring down Brophy than a team that already beat me.
Dang, that's true. I get it. I get it.
No, this is that's good stuff. This is what we live for. This is what we love talking about. I mean, it's playoff football, and we certainly wish the best to both the Wolves and the Pumas, and may the best team win, and may the best team keep keeping on. That's for sure. We certainly want to see all of our teams go as deep as they can. The Hamilton Huskies, they roll over the Chandler Wolves. The offense, I mean, it's been nice all year long. They average 37 points a game. They've scored in 9 straight quarters. I love seeing and saying this from a receiving standpoint. Chili, your guy, Reese Rinaldi, he hauled in a TD pass.
Dog.
My guy, Sabrium Torres, he scored a touchdown. Ralph, the freshman, who we've kind of deemed your guy, Roy Oliver, 3 catches for 70 yards. But Logan James, the senior, he steps up, 8 catches, 180 yards. Oh, there's a running game also. Chili, talk about these weapons.
Jacob Brown is an absolute dude. And I've said this all season. Probably the best 2026 running back in the state. One of the super high level 26 running backs period that I've seen. Hamilton's got dudes, man. Rich Lucero's orchestrating and running this offense to perfection, to near perfection. He's really processed the things that Mazzone and Pepler have thrown at him. So shout out to him, man. 9-1. Listen, I know that there's a lot of animosity from Hamilton coming my way because I wasn't. They felt like I wasn't all in on Dixon. And one thing I want to clarify is I love Dixon as a coach. I was just worried that sometimes that being at that big school, sometimes it's a lot, and the pressures, like you have to be in the open. Like only coached at Eastmark for 1 year as a head coach, but Dixon's proved, not that he had to. But Dixon has completely proved that he was up to the task, that he could handle the situation. Brought in a whole bunch of new coaches, brought in Mazzone, brought in dudes that he was comfortable with, and made this thing work. 9-1. Listen, I know that the first part of their schedule was soft, but he got the job done. He put this thing together, and
yes, he did.
They're back in they're where they should be, beating Chandler. And back in the open, because there were some questions. A lot of people didn't think that Hamilton was gonna end up in the open based on the way the rankings and the numbers were working out late season. So he took care of business, and I just want to show love. I gotta give the flowers to him while he can still smell them. So congratulations, Coach Dixon. It was an amazing regular season that you coached and put together.
And it's a season that will continue. We'll talk about some of that stuff later. Ralph, let me ask you this. Hamilton averaging 37 points a game, Basha averaging 39 points a game. It seems like Hamilton's offense is just, I don't want to say flying under the radar, but they don't seem like they're getting that light and that love of an explosive offensive team the way other teams around the state are, but they're scoring points.
Yeah, they're scoring a lot of points. I think it's that their offense hasn't had sort of a unified identity. It's really, early in the season it was Sabri Torres, then toward the middle of the season it was Jacob Brown. Then in the battle for Arizona Avenue, all of a sudden out of nowhere, you have 200 yards receiving for Logan James. Who saw that coming? Like, Logan James is a good player. He's a good tight end. We had one 100-yard receiving game ever before this, and it came against Desert Vista. Who would have thought that he'd go out against Chandler and become like battle for Arizona Avenue legend Logan James? So
MVP, right? Yeah.
I really think that outside of Lucero, who has been very consistent, and shout out to Lucero, because I know he said he had those newspaper clippings from the last year's battle for Arizona Avenue where he probably shouldn't have even been playing. Beckham Pellant got injured. He comes in, he gets that loss, took it very personally, spent the whole year stewing, goes out there and puts 56 up on Chandler 1 year after losing, I think, 49-13. So he deserves a ton of credit. But it's sort of that the offense looks a little bit every week. And that's a big part of why I don't think he's getting all the or that Travis Dixon isn't getting all the credit that he deserves. I will say this. Worst broadcast in years. Worst high school broadcast in years. They need to have you two calling these games. I don't understand why anybody else does it. But, I don't mean to come out here and be overly aggressive, but Dale Hellestray spent the whole fourth quarter of this game calling out Hamilton for still throwing the ball. Who cares, dude? Wow. Worst high school broadcast I've seen since the Bishop Gorman broadcast when Dale Hellestray threatened to fight Chili because he got a player's name wrong.
Oh my
Just call the game.
That actually did happen.
Just call the game. Be normal, please. Just call the game. These are kids. Just because you got grouchy doesn't mean you need to take over the entire broadcast. People are watching this from all over the country not to hear you cry like a baby. Calm down. That's all I have to say about that. Worst high school broadcast ever.
Wow. It's
and hold on. For context, I need to make sure that people understand. Ralph is in North Carolina, so all he's doing is watching broadcasts from the little interns doing the NFHS stuff, in the West Valley or wherever in some of the East Valley stuff.
Thank you.
So he's not grading this just like, oh, it's this broadcast versus when I see Troy Aikman and Tom Brady on Fox and this stuff or whatever. So he watches Brett, he watches Cody, he listens to like I said, whichever intern
those guys.
Yeah,
but not just Derryberry and those guys. The Basha High School Sports Broadcast Network,
the Highland team
Sports Broadcast Network. Hamilton last year had a kid who only knew the difference between throw and pass and didn't have a roster in front of him.
But that dude
was
hilarious.
Just kind of going on vibe. I listen to so many student broadcasts.
That dude from Hamilton had personality last year, though. So he was so legit.
Interesting.
He's so legit. I think we lost Ralph again.
Stuff.
Ralph, did we lose you again?
He's here.
No, because he's not blinking.
I don't know what's got. I don't know if it's an internet issue on your end, my end, Brett's end. All I know is I've been critical of. Anytime I'm critical, my screen goes dark.
Well, let's move on to a team that we definitely are not critical of really at all. The Basha Bears. They are just doing everything they're supposed to do. And let's start it off with the guy who's in charge of the Bears who are rolling, and that is the head coach, Chris McDonald. I'm here with the head coach of the Basha Bears, Chris McDonald. And Coach, you have found out your opponent in the open, and it seems like we just talked about this a few minutes ago, but your initial thoughts on just being in the open again and the Horizon Huskies.
Super excited. I mean, it's a new season, right? New season, we get to attack, and excited to play Horizon. Never had the opportunity to. I've never played them before as a coach, and so it's fun when you have a new challenge, and they're a worthy opponent. Obviously, I mean, their resume got them into the Open, and they've been there before, so this isn't new to them, and they're doing a really good job over there. I don't know a ton about Horizon. I do know that their coach is doing a really good job. Defensive-minded coach. I know that they have a quarterback that is kind of a dual threat, and I know that they're physical. So,
speaking of quarterbacks, you've got a good one yourself, Brody Veers. Tell me about how he has just adapted, and the QB1 position seemingly has just gone very, very well for you from Williams to Veers.
Yeah, I think what we. First off, he had a really good JV year. I think in his eight or nine games, he had 25 touchdowns throwing, and he had another 7 rushing. So you're talking about a kid that we knew was going to have the opportunity to compete for the varsity job. We allowed him to do that. Him and the other quarterbacks, a couple seniors in front of him, and he kind of separated himself, obviously, and then with pads comes on, and he's a tough kid, right? And he showed that when the pads came on, and great leadership qualities. I think the kids kind of bought into him a little bit, the line, the receivers. Just he's got that kind of infectious personality. He's got great arm talent. He's got a great feel for the game. I just think the biggest thing with us was just working with him on, the game within the game, right? Understanding, what not to do on first down sometimes, even though it might look good. But, we throw a lot on his plate. And I think he's just kind of gotten better a little bit every week, just kind of understanding. I also think he learned from a really good one last, Damon, who was a 4-year starter, and kind of, see how he operates. And, he's done a good job. And I think the biggest thing, and I'll knock on wood here is that, our quarterbacks, I think we put them in a position where, and we really focus on not turning the ball over.
True.
I want to say in 4 years that D was the starting quarterback, he probably had maybe 7 interceptions.
Wow.
I mean, he didn't turn the ball over, and now Brody's kind of taken that as well, and I think he's got 1 interception this year.
That 2022 run was special. A championship is always special. How has that prepared you as a coach to make another run this year?
I was asked that earlier, and I don't know if I have a distinct answer. I mean, I don't know. We just go about our business. I mean, that's just kind of how we operate, and I don't know if we do anything that's new. We do what we're used to doing, and that's that's just I'm focused on Wednesday. I'm not focused on Horizon. I'm focused on this upcoming Wednesday that's our first day back. Obviously I'm focused on Horizon, but you get what I'm saying? The focus is on Wednesday and having the best practice we can have Wednesday. And then the next day it's, and that's just kind of how, and our kids kind of have that mentality too. Friday will take care of itself.
I'll ask you about the East Valley, in particular the East Valley region. For a while, and still is very much so, the premier region that's still the region that we're part of. But seemingly this East Valley, your Highlands, your ALA Queen Creeks that came out of nowhere, that's making football on this side of town really, really good.
Yeah, I think their region, Highland, ALA, Queen Creek, Red Mountain, Queen Creek. Who am I missing? I don't want to leave anybody out.
I forget who else it is.
Yeah,
but
I think that was.
We understand each other.
Yeah. I think that was the most competitive region this year. I mean, from top to bottom. I mean, if you look at what they did to some other teams, in other regions, I mean, that was probably, in my opinion, the best region this year. Just if you just want to single out a region, but yeah, the East Valley. I mean, it's you got schools all over the place, very close in proximity, and the thing is highly competitive across the board, right, up and down the East Valley, and I just think it's kind of speaks to the amount of talent, within the state. Because, I don't like to get in the whole East Valley, West Valley thing, but there's a lot of talent over there too, and there's a lot of really good football teams and coaches over there too. But I just think, it's just a testament to the coaching and the players, and kind of putting Arizona on the map.
And I'm hoping you coach 3 more games this season. Thank you.
I appreciate that. So do I.
Ralph, let me ask you, what is the most impressive thing about the Basha Bears this season for you? For me, it's just, and McDonald talked about it, just the quarterback play, just that continuity that they didn't have that big drop off from Williams to Veers. I think that's kind of where the starting point is, for me at least.
Yeah. I mean, 4 years with one player is a really long time to have to then turn and shift into a new identity. And, I think we had talked about the fact that, I think Brody Veers has the top 5 passing yardage games of the last 5 years, and he's only been the starter this year. So it wasn't so much the not falling off, it was the changing of identity. Damon protected the football. He used his legs. He's for people who watch football in the state of Arizona, very similar to Kyler Murray in that, he's going to do what it took to move the chains and protect the football at the same time. Brody Veers is a little bit more of a throwback to the days of Ryan Kelly, and going out there and being able to throw for 350, but he'll also run you into a game away from the competition. He can do it all. And, we've seen that, there have been a lot of schools in the state of Arizona that seem to consistently field very good quarter. Pinnacle's one of them, right? Every single time Pinnacle graduates a quarterback, it's like, oh, what are they going to do now? Oh, it's next guy up. Because once you've developed that culture in your program, that's where people who throw the football want to be. They want to be in a culture like that. And I'm sure that Chili could tell you that behind Brody Veers, they got somebody else coming. Because once you have established that you're willing to play to somebody's strengths, then you don't have to be the same type of quarterback in every single time. We knew a lot of players on this team would be good, and they are. Sometimes meeting expectations is even harder than defying them. And then sometimes when you're on the top of the mountain and everybody's after you and you get knocked down, you're not always resilient to turn right back around and start to climb again. That was the big surprise with Chandler High School in 2016. You didn't make the championship in 2015. I was shocked that they were able to turn it around so quickly and go right back. And that's kind of the way that I feel about this Basha team after losing to Centennial last year at Dobson High School in the open semifinals. Here they are right back and, top spot in our rankings, number 2 spot in the AIA rankings, ready to give it another go with a completely different identity. That speaks to coaching. That speaks to culture. All of the things that you guys said were going to happen when they hired Chris McDonald.
Chili, what you got with Basha? There's so much positivity to say. It's I don't know where to start.
This team is explosive everywhere on the field. They got wide receivers, Gio, Cash. They got running back, Noah, and Josh Gaines now, the train. They got their thunder and lightning. They got a great decision maker at quarterback, and Brody. Their offensive line is crazy. Defensively, that front led by Blue Dantzler, the Oregon State commit. Secondary, they got guys like Caleb Garcia,
Trey Knox.
Trey Knox. When healthy, Trey Knox is one of the top corners in the state for sure. So
yes, he is.
If they can get him for the next 3 games, that's key. They don't really have any glaring weakness, and you almost have to get to their depth to kind of find it. So I don't know, man. This is the best team in Arizona that I've seen without bias, because if I did have a bias, I might pick another team. So this team is just so gifted everywhere, and it's going to get even scarier next year, because next year they got a lot of dudes coming up in that 2027 class that are
They
going to
got
be
dudes
ready
coming
to
up
go.
and coming back next year.
And they got dudes
That
coming
makes it
back. So
deadly.
like, yeah, it's gonna be insane. This team is loaded now, and they're gonna be loaded next year too. So man, stand by. I can't wait. I can't wait. I do think that we're a couple weeks away from seeing them at ASU.
That's very true, very true. And we will preview the Open next week. Both teams have this week off. It'll be number 8 Hamilton at number 1 Marana, and number 7 Horizon coming around the corner, playing at number 2 Basha. Those games will be not this Friday night, but Friday the 22nd. So it'll be good stuff. We'll definitely break into that. Ralph, while we still have a few minutes, I want to ask you about rankings in general, and one of them ultimately ties back to the CUSD, but wanted to ask you about a handful of years ago. Not only us, but collectively, we were talking about, wow, this 3-loss Highland team won't make the Open. And now we're talking about a 3-loss 5A Higley team in the Open. They were in the Open without question. You also had 3 other 5A teams in, and you mix that recipe in to a 9-1 Hamilton team. Almost didn't. They were arguably the last team in. They had the scoreboard watch and hope and all of that sort of stuff. Has the algorithm changed? Has the body of Arizona football shifted? Like, what's your take on what we saw transpire with the rankings this year?
There had to have been some type of tweak, honestly. If there wasn't a tweak to the formula, I don't think you could explain the respect that Southern Arizona is getting this year from, and honestly, like I think we're going to see that maybe the tweaks to the formula weren't justified when you have some higher ranked Southern Arizona teams lose in the playoffs early, especially in the 5A playoffs. And it's going to be really, really interesting. Not that the AIA ever comes out and justifies anything that they do, but it's going to be really interesting internally how they justify it in conversations that they have around the office if all 4 6A teams win by a minimum of 10 points. That's going to be extremely interesting. I would assume that a change was made. I would, because Tucson just had their first 8-win regular season since 1973. And they're the number 2 team in 5A after 4 got elevated into the playoffs. Who have they played outside of other Tucson teams? So, that part is very, very interesting to me. Obviously, there was some type of shift. That's clear. As far as the 5A, they introduced the multiplier as a correction. So the multiplier was them previously saying, oops, this is too heavy. We didn't think through weighting a 4A schedule that gets played against no 5A or 6A teams equally with a 6A schedule that's played against all 6A teams. So they had to correct that. So we know that adjustments are made to the formula. But the multiplier not really being enough to say, hey, probably a 7-2 Sal Point or an 8-2 Brophy deserves to be in over a 3-loss Highland. I would imagine that if they do tweak things, that's something they look at in the future. Now, obviously, Higley's going to get boosted up anyway. But if Higley was in 6A, as many people say they should be, and they went 7-3, they would not be in the Open. And we know this because tell me what 7-3 6A team made the Open.
Correct.
None.
No, you're right. Absolutely.
So
yes,
to say if you fed Higley to Red Mountain, who was 7-3, Highland, who was 7-3, Chandler, who's 5-5, Perry, who's 5-5, Casteel, who was 5-5, just made it a 6-game regular season, I think they go 2-4. So, this is something that is glaringly obvious and will only be shifted if enough people care. But the way that high school sports are designed with the rotating audience, it's not often that you have enough pressure to get them to turn around and do the right thing. There should not be 4 5A teams in the Open, but there are. And if we have 4 6A, because of the way that it shook out, all 6A versus 5A, which I've had people say, like, oh, that had to be AIA manipulation. There's an ALA Queen Creek dad who for 3 years has been on me that it has to be manipulation, it has to be manipulation. If they were manipulating this, you would at least have 2 5A teams playing against each other so that somebody could move on. You don't
could move up, right?
So, I personally feel like 4 6A teams in the second round of the Open is a disastrous look for the AIA. I'm one person. I have a big mouth, but I'm one person. So it really depends on how everybody else feels about this. But if your 4 best 5A teams are sitting at home while the 5A tournament is going on, that's a bad look to me.
Right. No, I definitely agree with a lot of what you said. I think the biggest thing for me with the amount of 4A teams, 5A teams, that'd be crazy, 4A teams, but with the amount of 5A teams, yes. You figure we did a podcast back in late January when Travis Dixon got hired, and people were asking on our show, I think it might have been Eric Newman, oh, hey, what's the ceiling or what's the standard for Hamilton, et cetera. If someone would have told us, or if we would have said, hey, Hamilton is going 9-1 this year with their only loss being to Basha, even with Centennial being 3-7, and they might not make the Open, we'd have been like, that's crazy. So that was always that wrinkle that I was like, it was just puzzling that as good of a Hamilton team that I still believe they're going to play some games almost didn't make it at that 8 seed. So it's nuts. It's very nuts. But I mean, here we are in mid-November. We've got a bunch of games. We've got Open games that we'll preview next Wednesday. 6A teams that we'll be tuned in for and broadcasting collectively on Friday night. And we all will have a strong watch on 4A. We've got 2 great 4A teams. Hopefully they play each other in a couple weeks. So it's going to be good stuff, Chili. It's going to be in November and into early December. If
Seton plays ACP in the second round and you are not broadcasting a game, what is the likelihood that Brett Quintyne would make it out to that game over potentially one of the Open games?
Well, I'll say I will be broadcasting a game on that Friday. I don't know. There's a lot of ifs and locations and all of that stuff that are still factoring, but how cool would it be if I got to broadcast ACP against Seton Catholic?
Shit. That would be like the smartest thing, though. Like, how tough is that decision to make? Like, I mean, isn't that like one of those things like, oh, let's do the right thing?
There's a lot of things that go on, which logistically I get what they're doing, but it's we'll see what goes on.
If they give that game to Dale Hellestray, I'm walking into traffic.
Crazy stuff. Crazy stuff, guys.
Oh, man.
Ralph, as always. Chili, as always. Hey, we'll see you guys next week. This is the Seton Rivals Podcast.